Hello everybody and welcome to another YouTube video. So in today's video, I'll be covering an important topic, which is security in Python. Now, oftentimes when we're writing code in Python, we're using packages that come from PyPI, so something like Flask or Django. Now, those are great, but there's actually no security review that's required before these packages get uploaded to PyPI. And that means a lot of times when you're writing code, you actually are using packages that have vulnerabilities in them. In fact, about 48% of Python projects have security vulnerabilities, and on average of those projects that have vulnerabilities, they have over 30 vulnerabilities in them. Now, fortunately, about 87% of those vulnerabilities have a known fix, and in this video, I'm going to show you an awesome tool called Snyk that can help us detect the vulnerabilities on our code and then fix them. So with that said, let's dive in. So as I mentioned in this video, we're going to be using a tool called Snyk. Now, Snyk is the sponsor of this video. I do need to disclose that. However, like all sponsored videos on this channel, I only do them if I think that the product, platform, technology, whatever it is genuinely useful and you guys can find some value from it. And well, this is no exception. So I'm just going to spend a minute here talking about what Snyk actually does. Then I'm going to show you the complete setup process, which is relatively simple. I'll run Snyk on a few vulnerable applications. Then I'll show you some of its integrations related to GitHub, related to PyCharm, and all of the other stuff it can really do. So you can kind of think of Snyk like Grammarly for your code. What it does is it scans your code, reads through it, and tells you if you have any vulnerabilities, specifically in a lot of your packages, right? A lot of the dependencies that you're using. Now, it doesn't only check dependencies, it can also check Docker containers, infrastructure code, and a few other things, and it doesn't just work in Python, it works in a bunch of other languages as well. And one of the great things with Snyk is that it integrates with PyCharm, a few other editors, and also has an integration with GitHub. So you can actually link and connect your GitHub repositories, and Snyk can automatically put up pull requests to fix any vulnerabilities that you have. So almost all of the vulnerabilities that it will show you, it will actually give you recommendations on how to fix those vulnerabilities, which is really what makes this product useful. If it just told you the vulnerabilities, that's not super helpful, but it actually tells you how to go about fixing them. So with that said, let's get started with Snyk. Again, you can click the links in the description to check it out. But the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create an account on the website, which is necessary. Then I'm going to download the CLI, the command line interface tool, and run you through some of the basic commands that it has. So as I was saying, step one here is to create an account. Do that from the link in the description. I've already created an account, and since I've created an account, what I'm going to do is press login, and it's going to bring me to the Snyk dashboard. Now, you can see here that's already showing me some of the vulnerabilities I have in my different GitHub repositories that I've linked here, and also some of the projects I've opened on my computer previously. I'm not going to focus on this right now, but you guys can kind of mess around and just see exactly what it can do, and it should walk you through kind of the basic setup process, which is relatively simple. The only thing I'd recommend you do is connect your GitHub account with Snyk. That'll just make things a lot easier. Anyways, once we've made our account with Snyk, what we want to do is install the CLI. I guess it's just called the CLI, the Snyk CLI. This is kind of the tool that works on the command line interface. Now, I'll leave this link in the description as well. This is a different link than the first one, but there's multiple ways to install this CLI tool. So I'm going to install it using npm, but you can install it with pre-built binaries, with a container, with Homebrew, or with the Windows Scope Package Manager. Again, link for this will be in the description. So I'm going to use npm. This is probably the easiest way, at least from what I can read here. And to use npm, you're going to need Node.js. So first, if you don't already have it, go and install Node.js. I'll leave this link in the description as well. And then what you're going to do is copy this command right here, npm install -g standing for global, and then Snyk. So if you're on Mac or Windows, it should be the same thing. Install Node.js, open up your command prompt or terminal, paste in this command, run it, and that should install the CLI tools for Snyk. All right, so I already had Snyk installed, but you can see that it just updated. I guess there was a new version since I last installed it. And now that we've installed the Snyk CLI tools, what we need to do is authenticate ourselves with Snyk. So to do this is quite simple. You simply type Snyk and then auth, and it should bring up a web page that gets you to connect your Snyk account with your CLI tool. So here you just press authenticate, and then there you go. It says it's authenticated, and we can create a snapshot of our project by running Snyk monitor. I'll go through what that command does in a minute. Okay, so when I come back here, it says your account has been authenticated. So what I'm going to do now is actually open up a vulnerable Python project and show you what Snyk can do and all of the vulnerabilities it finds. All right, so I just opened up the application in PyCharm that I'm going to be testing Snyk with. Now, this is designed by the Snyk team, and it's an intentionally vulnerable Python application called PyGoat. So I've got the GitHub repository open. I'll leave this link in the description as well in case you want to mess around with it. But essentially, this is a Django application. It has a few different vulnerabilities in it, and we're just going to see how well Snyk actually identifies them and picks them up when I run the command in PyCharm. Now, I've already done all of the setup stuff to be able to run this application. We don't really need to run it. I'm just trying to show you the vulnerabilities. So I'm going to skip over those steps. If you guys want to run it, you can follow the steps here. It's pretty straightforward. All right, so PyGoat, that's what I'm using. You can see I have it open here, and this actually has a Docker file, which we'll be testing later on, as well as just your standard kind of Python environment. And so I haven't ran this with Docker. I've just ran it by installing the Python packages that I need, or set it up by installing the Python packages that I need. So the reason I'm using PyCharm here is actually because Snyk has a plugin/extension for PyCharm. So I'm going to quickly show you how to install that in case you want it. And then, of course, I'll run through the CLI commands. So you can see I have the Snyk extension down here. It's kind of highlighted in the bottom bar. Well, if you want to install that in PyCharm, you go to File, you go to Settings, you go to Plugins, and then you type in Snyk. And well, you can see it right here. I already have it installed. There you go. That's as easy as that is. Now I'm just going to quickly pop up the Snyk plugin here and show you kind of how it works. So you can see we have critical, high, medium, and low as the kind of filters for the severity of the different vulnerabilities you can find. And well, if I want to run the scan, I can simply press run scan. It's going to scan my project and it's going to show me all of the vulnerabilities. So let's give this a second to run. Once it's finished, I'll be back and we'll walk through the vulnerabilities. All right, so there we go. We can see we got 10 vulnerabilities here, 1 critical, 3 high, 3 medium, and 3 low. I'll press onto a few of them and you can kind of see we have this issue with web cache poisoning. We have improper input validation, and then it's showing us where these issues are actually fixed. So it says, okay, fixed in Django, whatever versions these are. It was introduced in these versions here. And then down here, you can see this little overview. It gives you a description of Django and then a description of the actual vulnerability and kind of how you can fix that vulnerability. So you may have noticed as I was doing this scan that the code security and code quality down here say disabled for your organization. Now I'm going to quickly show you how we can enable those. You should be able to enable them when you first set up Snyk, but in case you didn't and you need to re-enable them later, what you can do is open up the plugin window, go to the kind of wrench here, which is the Snyk settings. It will bring you to this page, and notice you can't even check these 2 boxes, and that's because it's disabled by my organization, and the organization is kind of the account I created when I first signed up with Snyk. So what I'm going to do is press on this hyperlink here. It's going to bring me to a web page. And notice here, there's this little kind of window that says enable Snyk code. So what I'm going to do is enable Snyk code, save this, and then it says after being enabled, you must import or re-import projects to scan them. Okay, makes sense. So let me close this window here. And now notice how I can check code security and code quality. So I'm going to check both of those, press apply, and then OK. And now I'm going to rescan my project and see if it gives me any security or quality issues. So let's scan this. Once it's done, I'll be right back. All right, so the scan has now finished, and notice that I have 18 vulnerabilities for code security, and I have, code quality. I have 2 issues right here in app.py and views.py. I won't go through all of these, but let's just have a look at one and see if it gives me any fixes. So if I go to something like this, sensitive cookie in HTTPS session without secure attribute, notice it kind of gives me a description, right? The cookie secure flag is set to false. Then actually tells me what the fix would be here. So it says this issue was fixed in 18 projects. Here are 3 example files. And then I can click through them and kind of see what the change would actually be and how I will fix that security issue. Now let's just have a look at code quality here and see what we get. App.py, missing close for open, add, close, or use a with block. Okay, nice. So it's saying I didn't close the file that I'd opened, so I need to close that. That's always a nice thing to have caught for you. All right, so that's how you enable the code security and code quality checks. Now what I'm going to do is show you some of the Snyk CLI commands that don't involve this plugin, because we're not always going to be using this plugin when we're working with Snyk. So I'm going to open up the terminal here. I'll zoom in so you guys can read this. Actually, let's see. Can I make this any larger? Okay, not right now. And I'll just show you the Snyk CLI commands. So it's pretty basic. We already authenticated with Snyk auth. The next one we can run is Snyk and then test. And what this will do is, again, scan the application and show you any vulnerabilities. So Snyk test, let's run that, and let's wait for the output. All right, so there we go. The command has finished, and you can see it found 1 issue, 2 vulnerable paths. It says issues to fix by upgrading dependencies. So this is one of the issues we can actually fix. It says there's an SQL injection. This is a new high severity vulnerability, gives you a link to where you can actually read about it. And then it says this is in Django 3.1.12. It was introduced by that and one other path. And then it tells us the way that we can fix this is by upgrading Django to 3.1.13. So let's actually go ahead and try that and see if that removes the vulnerability. So I'm going to go to requirements.txt. I'm going to go to Django. Just going to change that to 0.3. It says package requirement is not satisfied. Okay, I'll just install the requirement. Once that's done, we'll rerun the command, and see if this worked. All right, the package has been installed. Let me rerun Snyk test, and let's see what our output is this time. Ideally, we should no longer see that vulnerability because, well, we fixed it. And there you go. Tested 32 dependencies for known issues, no vulnerable paths found. And that is obviously because, well, we fixed the issue, the vulnerability. Okay, now the next command I'm going to show you here is called Snyk monitor. Now this one is a little bit different, but when I type this, what's actually going to happen is my project that I'm working on here locally is kind of going to get scanned and uploaded to the Snyk UI or the Snyk platform. And anyways, it's easier for me to just show you, but when I run Snyk monitor, if I spell Snyk correctly, you're going to see that it gives me a URL, and that URL has all of the information related to kind of the current snapshot in time of this project and its vulnerabilities. So it says it's going to be monitoring this now on the Snyk UI or the Snyk platform. And if I go here and I open up this URL, so let's go ahead and open it, you can see that I have my PyGoat project. This is locally on my machine. It's monitoring it. It says the snapshot was taken a few seconds ago. I can retest it by actually pressing right here on the UI, and that will retest it on my local machine, which is pretty cool, obviously assuming I have internet connection. And then when I go here, it's saying, okay, there's no issues found. And then it can actually show me the entire dependency tree of this application. So there you go. That was just kind of a quick view at what Snyk monitor does. So the command you're going to be running a lot is probably Snyk test, and then you run Snyk monitor if you want to actually take a snapshot of the project, have it uploaded to the UI, and then, well, be monitored by the actual Snyk platform. All right, so now that I've showed you the basic Snyk CLI commands, the ones that are most popular that you're going to be using most of the time, I'm going to quickly show you how you can test infrastructure code and your Docker images or Docker files using Snyk. So what I'm going to do here is go inside of this infrastructure folder. You can see there's this application load balancer folder. And to give you a quick summary of what this is, this project here can be deployed out to AWS to a load balancer. And there's some Python code that's written that actually generates a template that is kind of the configuration for the load balancer on AWS. So here, application load balancer, we have this app.py file, and then inside of this cdk.out folder, this uses AWS CDK. You can see there's this load balancer stack.template.json that's generated from this Python code. So what Snyk allows you to do is test this stuff before you go and deploy it to make sure you don't have any misconfigurations in your templates or your configurations for your load balancer in this case. So the way you actually go test this is you go to your terminal, you change into the infrastructure directory, you go into the application load balancer directory, and then you run the following command. This is Snyk IAC, so infrastructure as code, then test, then followed by the path to the template that you want to test. So in this case, I want to test this template. So this is in cdk.out / and then load balancer stack.template.json. So let's run this. It's going to take a second, and then it's going to show us if there's any security misconfigurations in this template. All right, so it just ran. You can see that we actually found 9 issues here. And if I go here, it shows me all of them, right? So I believe the ones highlighted in gray are low severity. Yeah, low severity. We have medium severity ones here. I'm not really going to talk about exactly what these are, but I just wanted to show you, in case you're someone who is deploying stuff to AWS or wherever it may be, that you can test your code before you deploy it, obviously to make sure you're not deploying something that potentially has some security issues with it. All right, one thing I will quickly mention is this also is deployed or uses Kubernetes. So there's a bunch of Kubernetes configuration or YAML files here. You can also use Snyk to test those. I'll refer you to the documentation if you would like to do that. And the last thing I will now show you is how you can test your Docker files and Docker images using Snyk. So I've not actually ran this application with Docker. I've not pulled a Docker container or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is actually show you a website This is part of Snyk. It's called Snyk Advisor. And what this lets you do, I got to find it right here, is actually look at different Docker images and find any vulnerabilities in them. And it also gives you recommended alternative Docker images that are better for your use case. So in this case, we can see that we have the Python 3.8 Docker image. And well, it's telling us that in this image right here, we have 30 high severity issues, 53 medium, and 270 low severity issues. The last update was 1 day ago, and it's 339 megabytes. Obviously, not the most ideal thing in the world. It also shows us the stars and the number of downloads. Jesus, that's a lot of downloads. But what it does here is it shows us what we can use instead that's going to be more secure and also slimmer, right? So has less space or less storage, less space, whatever you want to call it. So in this case, we can see we have 2 recommended alternatives, Python 3.9.6, and then this is 43.5 megabytes, and then Python 3.10.0 B4 Slim, which is 43.6 megabytes. We can click into these, we can see their vulnerabilities as well, but they're more secure and smaller, so we may consider using that instead of Python version 3.8 if we were going to run this with Docker, but I didn't even run it with Docker. So there you go. That's how you can do this. This is Snyk Advisor. Everything I show you, I will have linked in the description. All right, so I've now showed you how we can test our Snyk application, the basic code using Snyk test and Snyk monitor, how we can test the infrastructure. I briefly mentioned you can check Kubernetes related stuff as well. And then finally, I showed you how we can look at the Docker stuff. Now, there is some CLI commands that you can use for Kubernetes and for Docker. Again, I'll refer you to the documentation, all links in the description if you want to see what those are. But of course, you can also just use Snyk Advisor, the website that I just showed you, to look at, vulnerabilities in the Docker image. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head over to GitHub. But first, I'll actually go to my Snyk dashboard. And I'm going to show you how Snyk integrates with GitHub. So you may recall at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that Snyk can automatically fix issues for you. Now, the way it actually does that is when you link a GitHub repositories to Snyk, it can actually put a pull request up that will automatically fix the vulnerability issues. So I'm going to show you exactly how that works. Now, the first thing we need to do is connect our Snyk account with GitHub. I've already done that. I assume you would have done that as well. Then we need to add a GitHub project to Snyk. So click on Add Project from the Snyk dashboard, click on GitHub, and then you can look at all of your different repositories. So I've already added a few repositories here. I'm going to try to find one. Let's go with Flask Web App Tutorial, and let's see if there's any vulnerabilities in here that we can have Snyk put a pull request up to fix. All right, let's give it a second here. It's just scanning this. Once it's done scanning, I'll see if we can fix any vulnerabilities. All right, so fortunately that one didn't have any vulnerabilities, kind of failed for my example, but let me just connect a different GitHub repository here and see if we can find one that does have some issues with it. All right, so I finally found a project that has some vulnerabilities in it that Snyk can fix. It's the coronavirus voice assistant. I'll click into it here and notice it says I can fix these vulnerabilities. So the vulnerability is in URL lib3, but if I want to fix this, I can press on the fix vulnerabilities button. And what this should do is bring up a page that actually opens a new pull request for me that automatically fixes this issue in my GitHub repository. So there we are. We can see that this is the page right here. It says open a fix PR. So let me go ahead and press on that. And then let's have a look at the PR that Snyk actually puts up. So it's redirected me here to my GitHub repository. We can see in pull request, it has created a new one here. So Snyk has created this PR to fix one or more vulnerable packages in this pip dependencies of this project. Goes through, gives me a warning, shows me what is actually happening, gives me a ton of detail here. And then obviously I'm the owner of this, so I could merge this pull request in. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's see if this now fixes the vulnerabilities. I mean, it should. So if I go to files change, we can see all it does is change the version of URL lib to make it one that doesn't have those vulnerabilities in it. And well, I wouldn't have known that was an issue unless I was using Snyk. So I think with that said, I'm going to end the video here. There's a lot more that you can do with Snyk, and I would highly recommend you check it out. Again, you can do that from the link in the description. But that has kind of been a general overview of how the product/platform works and really how it can help you find and fix vulnerabilities in your code. Of course, Snyk works for other programming languages as well. This video is kind of more focused on Python because I know that's what a lot of you guys write in and what I write in most of the time. So with that said, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. One last thanks to Snyk for sponsoring this video, and I will see you in another one.